Oh, I have a bad headache. I can't even concentrate. I'm dizzy most of the time these days. I often get tired. Wow, blurred vision. My feet are shaking. Oh my gosh. Oh, and I'm shedding weight at an alarming rate. I'm often feverish too. And a test shows it's not malaria. What could be wrong with me? It's been a while since I used my blood pressure apparatus. Okay, could I have high blood pressure? Well, these are the symptoms I've just described. And there are risk factors attached to having high blood pressure or hypertension. Welcome to Wellness and Living. Our topic today is high blood pressure or hypertension. My name is Thelma Obaza. If your blood pressure is 140/90 for a sustained period of time, then one could say you have high blood pressure or hypertension. Is that a word you are familiar with? The symptoms I just described, have you seen them before? In one person, occurring at the same time? But first up, we're coming to talk with you. We're coming out on the streets.
High blood pressure is a medical condition, as the name implies. It's something that happens due to a lot of factors. One of it may be due to old age. One of it may be due to high cholesterol level in the blood. It could be due to clogged arteries in the heart.
I once had an idea of one of my aunties in town in Akwa Ibom State that suffered from that very, do I call it sickness? So that had been suffering from it. And then she can't do normal things she's supposed to do. And then if she's trying to fix up some things for herself, sooner she will find it difficult to do them. And she's telling us that, she'll be telling us that her blood is going up, and then she can't take up her normal responsibilities.
I know of a person that died as a result of high blood pressure. The experience is not that good because high blood pressure, I don't pray it for anybody. And well, when it comes, it's better you go for regular checkup to really know, because let me just say it causes a sudden death, and it's a silent killer. So, and also one needs to be very careful. You take life easy, you think positive, even no matter irrespective of what happened. So just know that God is in control.
From what I've heard or what I've learned so far, I think one of the primary causes of high blood pressure is mental stress, when people overthink, and I think that's like the primary cause, to the best of my knowledge.
They target big man sickness in those days, and that is generally if you are thinking so much. You see, if you want to carry the world on your head, you are thinking so much the cares of this world, you will have high blood pressure. You can break down.
High blood pressure happens from so many factors, like ostentatious living. You cut your coat according to your size. Ill-gotten money, it doesn't normally give person rest. You'll be thinking of maybe you are being trailed. So it's one of the factors. And non-payment of salary or pension, such things can bring about high blood pressure, because you'll be seeing many of your pursuit in life going down.
There are many factors to high blood pressure. One may be the nutrition intake, that is what the person takes as diet. And another thing is anxiety. When you think more about the economic situation.
I think it's thinking and overstress. Yes, overstress.
when you're restless and every other thing. Your lifestyle matters. It's good to be exercising. You have to watch your diet, the kind of food you eat. You want you eat low fatty foods, and you should exercise regularly. It doesn't mean strenuous exercise. It could just be a walk for like 30 minutes. You take a long walk, come back. And then another thing is you watch the kind of food you eat, especially your fatty intake, intake of salt, and then basically you eat high proteinous food, high fiber with low cholesterol food.
I think too much of thinking, even sometimes unforgiveness can bring about it when you have too much load on yourself, and too much tension also can cause it. I held it sometimes that if you eat too much salt, you can get, you have hypertension, but I don't know how true that is anyway.
Exercising, right? Trying to have a stress-free life, although that's almost inevitable in a country like ours. Eating right also, I believe that goes a long way to helping in avoiding high blood pressure.
It's for the people to keep themselves happy. It will make them to, not develop high blood pressure. You should ignore anything in your hand is not within your reach. You don't go about killing yourself.
Hypertension or high blood pressure is a condition in which the force of the blood against the artery walls is too high. That results in elevated blood pressure, which we often call high blood pressure or hypertension. Are you living with high blood pressure? Are you managing hypertension well? I know people who have managed hypertension for over 30 years. They are living normal and healthy lives. That is what you too must do. There's nothing to be ashamed or afraid of. People have managed it, and so can you. But first up, the best way to manage it is to be properly diagnosed and to meticulously go after the best Medicare you can afford. But first up, shouldn't you get more information? The best time to start that process is right now. Have you ever wondered what blood pressure number means? Experts score systolic, the top number, and diastolic, the bottom number. When the heart beats, it squeezes and pushes blood through the arteries to the rest of the body. This force creates pressure on the blood vessels, and that is referred to as the systolic blood pressure. According to research, a normal systolic pressure is below 120. A reading of 120/129 is elevated, while 130/139 is stage 1 high blood pressure, and this is called hypertension. 140 or more is stage 2 hypertension, and 180 or more is the hypertensive crisis. The diastolic reading, or the bottom number, is the pressure in the arteries when the heart rests between beats. This is the time when the heart is filled with blood and gets oxygen, while a normal diastolic blood pressure is lower than 80. It is pertinent to know that even if the diastolic number is lower than 80, one can have elevated blood pressure if the diastolic reading is 120/129. According to experts, when one detects that the blood pressure is normal, less than 120/80, it is advised that to continue with frequent checks. Then, if the blood pressure is elevated, that is, the systolic blood pressure between 120 and 129, or diastolic blood pressure, or less than 80, a medical professional will recommend lifestyle changes like exercises and a better and richer diet. It is advisable by experts that frequent checks on the numbers should be carried out to enable a medical professional decide when medication is required. It is important to note that blood pressure could be high without symptoms. That is the reason why hypertension is referred to as the silent killer. If you leave your blood pressure unchecked for a long period of time, who knows, anything could happen. A wise person is that person, man or woman, who checks their blood pressure with their blood pressure apparatus often. Treating high blood pressure takes a multi-pronged approach, which includes dietary changes and improvement, medication, and regular exercise. Hypertension or high blood pressure is dangerous because it can lead to stroke, heart attack, heart failure, or kidney disease. A wise person can be a healthy person for a long period, especially when you take the necessary precautions by having regular checkups and using your blood pressure apparatus to check your blood pressure often. Be that wise person. Says one way to get high blood pressure or hypertension is to go mountain climbing over molehills. I will take it to mean that you can manage your stress better. De-stress, detox, remove the anger, move on, move forward. Don't let anger discolor your view of the world. Well, Dr. Ebute Agbo has done a lot of research on this issue, talking about hypertension or high blood pressure. And he's very willing to share what he knows with us.
High blood pressure is also called hypertension. So it refers to an elevated blood pressure within the arterial vessels. Objectively, it is you make a diagnosis after you have measured the blood pressure using the proper machine, and you've documented that on 2 different occasions, blood pressure of the person concerned was greater than or equal to 140/90. Your patient should, to a large extent, be seated, relaxed, leg uncrossed, should not have had coffee or exercised in the last 30 minutes that would have excited the patient and probably raised the blood pressure above normal, for example, and should also not have had any stimulant prior to taking the blood pressure, and is usually advisable to repeat it about 3 times and take an average. Recent studies in Nigeria have showed that the prevalence in the Nigerian population, in the adult, is as much as 40%. The risk factors can be divided into the ones you can do something about and the ones you really can't do something about. So we call them the modifiable and the non-modifiable factors. So starting with the non-modifiable factors, you have things like age. Your chances of developing hypertension increases as you age. In fact, from the age of 55, you have a 90% chance of suddenly becoming hypertensive. Another factor that is non-modifiable is sex. So men are more at risk at developing hypertension than women who are pre-menopausal. Ethnicity is also an important factor. So the black man, the Negroid, is more at risk of developing hypertension. It has to do with genetic constitution and our inability to handle salt. Another non-modifiable factor, of course, would be if you have an inherited risk, a genetic risk. So if you have a situation where parents, brothers, sisters, relatives are hypertensive, you have a higher risk of developing hypertension. But the modifiable risk are things that are acquired, so to speak. So things you may be able to do something about. So things like overweight, it's a risk factor. Things like sedentary life, increased intake of salt, is also a risk factor. Stress has also been known to be a significant modifiable factor for hypertension, and the use of cigarettes, smoking, the excessive consumption of alcohol is also a modifiable risk factor. Use of substances, psychoactive substances like cocaine, amphetamine are also included in the group of modifiable risk factor. It is also important to know that the consumption of certain off-label drugs and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like diclofenac, it's been shown that the consumption of certain local herbs may increase the risk of developing hypertension. There are other group of factors that we consider to be not as common, but they are important. So certain acquired conditions like hormonal abnormalities, like high steroid levels, high growth hormone levels, high aldosterone levels, can also increase the risk of hypertension. The challenge with hypertension is that on hypertension that is uncared for, unmanaged, can lead to several complications. I would give you a story. Sometime in April 12th, 1945, the 32nd President of the United States lifted up his hand and screamed that he had a terrible headache. He subsequently collapsed and died. That was Theodore Roosevelt. He had on autopsy revealed that he had a bleed inside his brain. Around the time he was being seen by doctors, and his blood pressure measurements were in the region of 300/150. Some of the dangers and complications of uncared for high blood pressure would include stroke, like in the case of Roosevelt, heart failure, like we see in our clinics, kidney failure. A critical number of the kidney failure epidemic in Nigeria will be directly as a result of poorly treated, uncontrolled hypertension. Also, problems with sight, what we call retinopathy, problems with the vision, occurs as a result of uncontrolled hypertension. And then lastly but not the least, what we call peripheral vascular diseases. So diseases in the limbs which result from blockade of vessels. All hope is not lost for people who are hypertensive. There is treatment, there is intervention that gives result. And it's been shown that people who are able to take their medications and see their healthcare provider regularly, roughly maybe about every 2 months, thereabout, are able to keep a lot of complications at bay. Because the whole aim of taking your medications is that you want your blood pressure to come to a level that simulates the normal. The etiology, the causes of hypertension in more than 95% of the situations are complex, and we are unable to cure it permanently. So a critical part of the intervention for patients who have hypertension is drug medication. But the cornerstone is lifestyle. Stress management is also a critical aspect of blood pressure control. And then the alcohol consumption. Smoking is a no-no, absolutely a no-no for patients who are hypertensive. And so if you are hypertensive and you are smoking, your blood pressure probably would not be controlled. The use of certain medications like NSAIDs needs to be avoided. NSAIDs are things like medications for pain, which if you abuse them, you would have challenge with controlling your blood pressure. Maintaining your appointments with your healthcare provider is very key. As much as 40 million Nigerians, adults, have hypertension, and 10 million Nigerian kids may have hypertension. But again, this is a new area. It's probably underdiagnosed, but has its own implication. So we need to look at strengthening lifestyle modifications, which, apart from being useful for treatment, can also delay, prevent, or reduce the severity of hypertension.
I may not understand what author Bayer means by saying a newspaper is a circulating library with high blood pressure. Is he saying that we shouldn't read our newspapers? Perhaps I think what it means is that anything you are reading that has more negative things than positive and is impacting you negatively, you should discard it. He's still talking about the stress level. You should do things in life that add joy, add color, add worth, add ingenuity to your person. For me, I exercise often. Some say Thelma is an exercise freak. And I tell my friends and my family because I wish all of them well. Longevity is what we all seek after all, isn't it? So why are you not working out with us? Come join us. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so just like this, one leg in front of the other, and then you lower the leg that's behind. So the right leg is in front, you lower the left. Lower. You can either put your hands on your waist for balance or you let them dangle. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The lunges work on the glutes. They give you proper position and posture. Yes, let's do how many? 5? Come to this side now. Not be here. You didn't get from the side. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Wonderful, simple, easy to practice lunges. Work on the right leg and the left leg. Alternate the positions and enjoy life while doing it. Exercise is fun. Go at your own pace. Build a support group of family and friends. Dick Gregory opines that people living with high blood pressure, diabetes, and many other ailments have lifestyle challenges. They are focusing on the negative lifestyle habits. He's asking them to discard it, that once you change your negative lifestyle habit, good health hugs you, it embraces you, it welcomes you. If you already have high blood pressure or hypertension, I want to tell you, it's not a death sentence. It's nothing to be ashamed or afraid of. You can manage it, you can live well. We have been talking about high blood pressure, and we've come to learn that it has no bias for gender, for age. If you make yourself susceptible, you will have it. It's been a pleasure spending time with you on Wellness and Living. But to ensure that I bring you new and factual information next time, I must go and do some more research. But first, I must thank you, all of you, who come to our social media handle, Wellness and Living, at Nigerian Television Authority to interact with us. My name is Thelma Obazi. I'd love to do this again, but I have to do some more research so that when next I'm talking with you, you are learning something new, definitely. For now, it's bye-bye.
Great nations produce what they eat and use. In the last 4 years, we have started to move away from just consumption to domestic production. Because we cultivated policies around growing what we eat, our land has grown far more rice than any time in our history, producing food, jobs, prosperity and dignity for millions of our countrymen and women. Reversing the trend of fertilizer importation under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative puts not only plants and many citizens to work, but also saves valuable foreign exchange. Also, the foundation for Made in Nigeria has been laid, building special economic zones around the country in partnership with the private sector. Nigeria is now truly at the cusp of not only making what we use, but exporting what we make. The Enyimba Economic City, Funtua Cotton Cluster, and Lekki Model Industrial Park offers world-class facilities, positioning Nigeria as the preeminent manufacturing hub in sub-Saharan Africa. But there's much more to expect at the next level. Mechanized farming, making tractors and processors available in every local government area in Nigeria will add great value to agriculture. Farmers and herders will coexist and produce efficiently and eradicates the age-long conflict over land, water and pasture. More and more production and processing centers and clusters will bring more work and prosperity ladder to millions and millions of our people. Cultivating and making things are much tougher work than destroying. To grow and make Nigeria attain the next level of all our dreams requires coming together, pulling our energies together and planting the seeds, assembling the plants, one seed, one part at a time. Let's build bridges. Let's blend tolerance, peace and unity. Let's all go higher to the place of prosperity, security and stability. Welcome to the next level.
This is the network service of the NTA.
You will have to jump off a cliff just knowing that you will not crash. If you're not in control of your emotions will be in control of you.
Hate or hatred or whichever, it's to dislike, the stage where you don't like something or you are not cool with it. It could be a person or a thing or a situation. Yes.
I see hatred as something that irritates one. You know, there are people that get easily irritated by some actions. You don't really like that thing. You don't just like it. And most times, you don't have reasons why you don't like it. So you just hate it for no reason. And you tend to see that you easily get angered towards it. You easily get irritated towards that particular thing. So you tend to hate it, whatsoever it is, be it a person or an action or a particular thing.
Hatred, it's something that is not cool, because I want to believe to a large extent the opposite of it is love. And I don't know, people who hate, I think they need to have a rethink. They have to know that it is better the other way around. Yeah.
Everyone in life has anger. It depends how you manage it. It depends how you view it. It depends what you're seeing at a time. Anger is something that you can manage as a person. So if you're able to control your anger, you have the self-management of your anger, it is something that can be dealt with.
Anger, I would say, is a state of one being irritated or vexed about a particular issue or situation.
Well, yeah, I get angry when it's necessary. But I have, over time, I've learned how to control my anger. Like,
sometimes you just have to retrieve, like fall back into your closet, calm yourself down, and then come out a better you. Sometimes you need to sit the person down, talk it over, because that also helps me personally. Sometimes when I'm angry with someone, I could sit him down or her down. We talk it over. It actually calms the nerves or relates more with the person and let the person understand that this and that gets you angry. And please try as much as possible to avoid it so as to save the situation.
you don't get to relate with people. That is one. People are always scared of you. You don't get the opportunities you're supposed to. You don't have this smiling face. You'll be depressed because of anger, unnecessary anger. It's not.
Today, my topic is on hatred, bitterness, anger, resentment. We are in the part of a world where we let things go. It's so funny. It is very, very ironic that I personally think that Nigerians take a lot of weight. We take a lot of pressure. In our marriages, man, we keep everything in. We pray, we fast, we climb mountains. Okay. At our jobs, our bosses, some of them, don't treat us the way that they should. They don't treat us with respect. They don't pay us according to our pedigree. And many a times, they even act like they are entitled to our servitude. But we still stay there, we stick with it, we don't even confront them. Another thing about Nigerians, which I personally think, is that we just let the government, we let people, we let everything just ride on us. We just keep going. Bakomi, no wahala. That kind of attitude. You see, in as much as I could compliment that personality and I could compliment that trait, which means that we are long-suffering and we are full of endurance. Okay, for me, who is an emotional coach, I can tell you that is a very, very toxic trait. Because what's going to end up happening is one day you will blow up. Whatever you suppress is eventually going to come out. And imagine it is suppressed and pressure is being put on it over and over and over and over again. One day it's just going to burst. And sometimes it could burst at the wrong time and it will burst in front of the wrong people. You could end up losing your job. You could end up going to divorce court. So here are ways to handle your anger, to handle your bitterness, to handle your hatred. First of all, I'm going to even tell you how to identify it. So I love this statement that was made by Gregory Popcak. He said that bitterness is unforgiveness that is fermented. Isn't that powerful? So it's like kunu. If you leave it out, or zobo, if you leave it out for a while, eventually it becomes, well, it becomes alcohol. You understand? So the properties in it will change. Why is that? Because originally, the original substance of kunu or zobo or all these drinks, there is an ingredient in it that is already strong. So in that case, we will say anger. Somebody offended you. But when you allow it to brew and you don't take care of it, you're not pouring it out, you're not drinking it, you're not doing anything with it, you're not stirring it, you just leave it there. 2-3 days later, you come, it wasn't refrigerated, it was just left out there, it's going to spoil. It is going to completely spoil, and it could become toxic. For some people, when they drink it, they find out that they're a bit, they're delirious because now it's alcohol, right? But there are some people that it really, really does harm their stomach because it's too strong. So it's the same thing with bitterness. When you don't take care of anger, when you don't take care of that offense, it's going to harm you. It will destroy you. And you know what? You end up becoming, not only are you now a victim, but you end up becoming a victim to yourself. So it started off with being somebody else's fault, but because you are not handling it in the way that you should handle it, you become the offender. That's why we have murderers around. That's why we have people walking out their marriages. That's why we have sin around. Because we have not taken care of the root of the issue. So how do you know that you are angry? How do you know that you hate somebody? It gets to the point where you start to wish them bad. You start wishing that they die. You start wishing that they are no longer in your life. You notice that anytime that you think about this person, there is a rage that comes upon you. You have headaches. You literally have depression. You have fevers. All you do is ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. To ruminate means that the thought of that thing just keeps going. It keeps going around in your mind, keeps going around in circles. You can't get rid of this thought. You can't get rid of what this person did to you. Is it me that they did that to? You start wishing evil for them. You start looking for opportunities to revenge. You cannot pray for them. It even gets to a point where you can't pray yourself. Because when you're so full of hatred, you can't pray. And if you can pray when you are hateful, then you actually do have a psychological problem. And I'm not trying to be facetious. If you can function in religious matters when you are full of hate, and you can actually function with hatred, then that means that your dysfunction has become very normal, which means that your abnormality has become normal, which is psychosis, which is an issue on its own that is even bigger than the anger. So when my mother was very ill, I didn't know. I had no idea. I'm going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to tell you how I dealt with unforgiveness. In this case, I dealt with unforgiveness, but I've also dealt with hatred with other people and with other things. But then through this situation, I also learned how to forgive. And I learned tips of forgiveness. So my mom now is struck with cancer. She didn't tell anyone. Well, she didn't tell me. So for 3 years, you're walking around with a death sentence and you don't tell me. And you're praying and you're believing God, and I respect that. But you didn't tell me, and I'm your only child. 2 days to when she was leaving to go for treatment overseas, I happened to go visit them. That's her and my dad. It's not like they called me and said, oh, come over. No. I had just had a missed IVF. That's like when an IVF didn't work, it makes like I was hemorrhaging. So it makes you sick. I was so sick. And so I rushed to my parents' house, which is natural. And I went to them for succor, for some solace. And when I got there, I saw suitcases everywhere. What is happening here? We are traveling to America in 2 days. Oh, what? Okay, so number one, you didn't tell me that you're traveling. Number two, you are traveling in 2 days. So I didn't have any time to prepare. That is if you were even just traveling on vacation or traveling to go minister. And you didn't tell me. Number three, why are you traveling? Mommy has cancer. Not mommy has typhoid, mommy has malaria, mommy has a headache, mommy has kata, mommy has cancer. If you see, I'm telling you the God honest truth, as soon as I heard it, it was like something pushed my body on the wall, and subconsciously, like I was trying to climb up the wall. I was in so much pain. It was like somebody was beating my back, and I couldn't believe it. And because of the kind of person that I am, I'm a very, 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 very loving, compassionate person. I'm somebody who just always wants to nurture, and that's why I'm in the nursing field. I just love to help. I just love to be there for people. Immediately, something switched on. My mother hen switched on in me. My compassion switched on in me. I didn't have any time to be angry. And I looked at her and I gave her a big hug, and I told her that together, me and her, I was going to walk down this long road with her. That night I checked myself into a hotel, and I cried and cried, and the pain was so deep. Oh, the pain was so deep. I was crying from the reality that she was going to die, because she was already in stage 4. And this was triple negative cancer. So I knew that she was going to die. I was already dealing with that reality that was going to happen. It was inevitable. But I was also dealing with the fact that I wasn't told. So I didn't have any time. I didn't have any time to digest this information. I didn't have any time to go through the process. And I didn't have any time to accept it. So I was angry. I was very angry, but guess what? I didn't realize how angry I was until after she died. And that's why I'm telling you that this thing called anger and bitterness and resentment is bigger than you think. You know, sometimes when the emotion is so deep, you can't even make anything out of it. You can't even put a definition to it. You don't even know what's happening to you. And you tell yourself that you're fine. I traveled overseas. I took care of her from my heart. I took care of her like I was taking care of myself. But when she died, I planned the funeral and we buried her. That was when I now started to go through my process. Like they say, that's when I came face to face with the cocoa. You understand? Like I came face to face with it. I realized that I was jilted. I realized that I was betrayed. I realized that I was held and kept away from a very, very vital information. I realized that I was cheated. I'm sure I've said that before. I felt like I was put into a corner where I couldn't do anything about it. And my name is Omenesa. But then before she passed, she apologized to me. And of course, the apology was not going to change anything. It wasn't going to change anything because she had still died. I have more for you. Stay tuned.